We'll call the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Carter.
Here.
Huffman.
Here.
Mattis Castillo.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Here.
McDonough.
Here. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, first item is to approve the agenda for April 16th.
So move.
Second.
We have motion and second. Roll call.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye. Next item is approving the minutes from April 9th, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and second. Any corrections? Roll call.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye. Our next item is a proclamation from Emergency Communications for Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and Commissioner Huffman.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Chair.
any
Let
folks
me-
that are here, come
I was
on
gonna-
up.
Let me invite all the, those involved to come on up. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Scott, come on up. You know, we have so many great jobs here at the county, and I think of all the jobs that we have here. Oh, wait a sec.
She's trying to get it turned off.
Trying to think of a telecommunicator
I was
joke
gonna
here,
say.
but I can't come up
What's that say? A watched computer never goes silent. I was gonna say, we have all these great jobs at the county, and so many of our jobs touch people at the most vulnerable moment of their needs. And certainly this group up here, it represents that, another group of folks that are talking to people at their absolute moment of crisis. And what you guys do and the whole department does is just fabulous. And so on behalf of the county, I want to read a proclamation, and then I'll have Scott, someone from your department, come up and say a few words. Whereas the Ramsey County Emergency Communications Center provides public safety dispatching services with advanced 911, text to 911, dispatch, and radio technology. And whereas the Ramsey County Emergency Communications Center dispatches for all police and fire departments within its borders, including White Bear Lake, which joined the center in 2018. And whereas the highly trained Ramsey County Emergency Communications Center telecommunicators and dispatchers process over 1 million calls each year. Just that, sink in for a minute, 1 million calls each year. Many of them critical to the protection of life and preservation of property with integrity, compassion, and professionalism. And whereas the safety and peace officers, firefighters, and emergency medical responders depend upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained by the Ramsey County Emergency Communications Center personnel from citizens who are often under extreme stress. And whereas the Ramsey County Emergency Communications Center continues to refine its community engagement efforts for recruiting and training, thereby advancing the county's goals of increased diversity and opportunity. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners declares April 14th to the 20th, 2019 as Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Ramsey County. And be it further proclaimed that Ramsey County Board of Commissioners commends the 24 hours a day, 365 days a year of life-saving work and devotion of the women and men at the Ramsey County Emergency Communications Center who work so hard to keep our county and citizens safe. So let me stop there. And to say a few words on behalf of the department, let me bring up Emergency Communications Deputy Chair Nancy Pass. Nancy?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning. As I prepared this morning and started thinking about what this week really meant to me as a leader and what I could share with you that described the amazing employees that we have. So first, let me introduce who I have. Behind me, I have employees from every title that work on our floor. Shift Supervisor Gina Jacobson, newly promoted Fire Dispatcher Jeff Bonneville, Law Dispatcher Ariana Garrick, and Telecommunicator, 911 Telecommunicator Brenda Abla, who was recently interviewed by our communications department highlighting the day in the life. So please stay tuned on social media for that. I thought I would try to share a glimpse into our awesome 13 shift supervisors, 61 dispatchers, and 57 telecommunicators. Some employees know they're going to retire from here, which is a pretty big deal in our profession. Most people make it 3 to 5 years because of the stress. While others are going to college to become nurses, social workers, or leaders within our organization, some employees are bilingual, grew up in the east side of St. Paul or in the suburbs of Ramsey County, while others moved here from another state. Some are firefighters and EMTs in our communities, while others married to or have parents that were firefighters and EMTs and officers. Some are single parents, and some are cat parents, and some are dog parents, and yes, all those are discussed. And for those working during the holidays, they gather together to have a potluck meal together while their families celebrate at their home. We are a pretty cool group and like to have fun. We have compassion, empathy, and drive to serve our community. Mr. Chair and members of the board and those in the audience, I have one favor to ask of you as we leave today. As you go about the rest of this week and you watch the news and see something tragic on the community that happened in our community, or you drive past a crash, or you see a fire truck or an ambulance or a squad, that drive past you with red lights and sirens, I ask that you have positive thoughts or prayers for our community members involved, the responders assisting them, and not to forget the person that used their voice to speak to the citizen on the phone, the dispatcher who sent the responders via the radio, relaying important information, and the shift supervisor that supported those employees 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We are the first responder and hear and process some pretty tragic incidents, all to come back the next shift and give another 100% of selfless service. Thank you for sharing this week for us and recognizing the work we do.
Well said.
Mr. Chair, I'll let Nancy introduce the employees. Let me have them come up and say their names and then what they do as well.
Good morning. I'm Gina Jacobson. I'm one of the shift supervisors.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brenda Abla, and I'm a 911 telecommunicator.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Ariana Garrick, and I'm a law dispatcher.
Welcome.
Jeff Bonneville, I'm now a fire medical dispatcher.
Welcome. Yeah. You want to group together? And as you guys are grouping together to get a picture, I will commit to you that next year's resolution will actually recognize how cool your group is. We will put it in there.
Oh, you want? Come there. Oh,
Yes, you're fully.
I can't even hold it. I'm shaking.
You good? All right.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, all of you.
All right. Thank you for. All right, we have another proclamation, and this one is from Human Resources, and it's a proclamation recognizing Administrative Professionals Day. Commissioner Ortega, and I know we've got a few folks here. Come on up.
You want to introduce yourselves? What's your name?
Hi, my name is Deborah Dahl, and I'm from Environmental Health.
Good morning.
Jeannie Englesmeyer from Finance.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris Kiefler, IPR Administration.
Good morning.
Good morning. Jamie Levine with Health and Wellness.
Good morning.
Thank you. Whereas Ramsey County employs over 400 full and part-time administrative support staff members who work in every department within the county's 5 integrated service teams and have duties and responsibilities as varied as the scope and the residents served by each department. And whereas administrative support staff members are often the first Ramsey County voice, the first Ramsey County person with whom a resident of Ramsey County comes in contact, and whereas Ramsey County residents are impacted by the administrative staff who they seldom see or hear, yet are often working behind the scenes with dedication and focus on residents first. And whereas the administrative support staff's role in placing residents first is not only respected and appreciated by Ramsey County residents, but also by their colleagues, managers, supervisors, and department directors, who recognize and value their professional skills, standards of excellence, collaborative abilities, compassionate spirit, willingness to learn, and many other daily contributions that administrative support staff bring to their workplace. Whereas the observation of the Administrative Professional Day and Administrative Professional Week, which reflects the essential role that administrative staff provide, can trace its root to the creation of Secretaries Day in 1952 by the National Secretaries Association, now known as the International Association of Administrative Professionals. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners declares April 24th, 2019 as Administrative Professional Day and April 21st to April 27th, 2019 as Administrative Professional Week in Ramsey County. And be it further proclaimed, the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners joins with employees throughout the county who recognize the contributions of support staff and thank them for their outstanding services to government, business, academics, and many other organizations. Boy, that was a mouthful, but I got to tell you something. And I'm sure I speak for the rest of my colleagues that I know the Board of Commissioners couldn't even get through a day without the support of the administrative staff. So I just want to say thank you very much for your work.
Good
Welcome,
morning,
Chris.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners. On behalf of the administrative support staff, we would like to thank you for this recognition. It's an honor. We would also like to thank you for the opportunities you provide us to enhance our skills to better serve the leaders of Ramsey County and also the residents of Ramsey County. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Ortega, you have the administrative agenda. I have a,
You
got it?
clue me in today. Mr. Chair, I like to,
All right, good.
Mr. Chair, I like to move,
Oh, I'm sorry. So, well, you get a time to regroup here. I got a presentation I skipped right over. Where's Mark and his team here? We've got a presentation from the Parks and Rec, Recreation 2018-2019 State of the Parks Report. My apologies.
Mr. Chair, while
You too.
while he comes up, I'll just say
Ryan.
that's how we initiate our new parks director. Right?
Wrong day, huh, Mark? Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Chair McDonough and Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to present the State of the Parks Report on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Commission. As you know, our advisory commission is made up of volunteer committee members from across the county who are passionate about the role that Parks and Recreation plays in our community's health and vitality. We are happy to be here today to share key initiatives that took place in 2018 and take a look forward at 2019. I am the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission, Leah Shepard, and here today is Parks Director Mark McCabe.
Are you privy to the PowerPoint that we had? You have that? Is it up?
Yeah.
I don't think we got it. There, now we have it.
There we go.
Hey.
Okay.
We have it live.
There we are.
Okay. So a major theme this year was racial equity in parks programming and internally. Parks and Recreation is making advances in integrating racial equity work in our parks programming. In addition to having our Tulu courts and activities starting in 2017, we've also formed several partnerships to facilitate programming with underserved populations. These include joint programming between Ramsey County Parks and Recreation and the City of Roseville, where Ramsey County Parks and Rec co-hosted a Discover Your Parks program at Lake McCarran's County Park. We also have the Pine Park-Involved Nature Education Program, which is a partnership with Ramsey County Corrections, focusing on providing at-risk youth with healthy outdoor experiences such as gardening and fishing, and the continuation of the Willow Lane Elementary School partnership with Tamarack Nature Center, which provides unparalleled school programming on nature education. Through a recent investment made in dry floor cover over the ice in Aldridge Arena, as well as relationship building, Parks has greatly expanded multi-purpose facility use of our Aldridge Arena. In addition to activities on the ice, the arena is now hosting several Latinx music festivals, quinceañeras, and Hmong New Year celebrations, as well as others. We're also working on advancing racial equity internally in the Parks Department. All the staff have received a first round of training in racial equity, and a staff comprised racial equity leadership team was formed, which recently completed a work plan for 2019. Our workforce diversity does need to be improved, but there have been success stories with diversifying seasonal staff members, especially with the lifeguard staff. 2 years ago, our lifeguard staff workforce was only 10% people of color, and today we're over 30%. This is largely due to increased promotional efforts for the positions and a reduction of barriers, such as eliminating training fees through scholarship for lifeguarding classes, which is continuing this summer. The Ramsey County Conservation District transitioned to becoming the Soil and Water Conservation Department, or division within the Parks and Recreation Department this past year. The transition went well, and we are realizing many benefits of having the expertise of these professionals within the Parks and Recreation Department, including added aquatic invasive species prevention at Ramsey County boat launches, collaboration with Parks Planning Division on best practices with stormwater mitigation, and added conservation efforts on planning and development projects, such as at Vadnais Snail Lake Regional Park. As we look to preserve and protect our natural resources, we have over 6,500 acres of land in Parks and Recreation, which carries a significant stewardship responsibility. Several initiatives to preserve and protect our Ramsey County parkland took place this past year, including restoring 200 acres of oak woodland and 15 acres of field converted into native prairie. We have volunteer-led Earth Day cleanup events and unique programs, including beekeeping at Keller Golf Course. Parks and Recreation is continuing to work with the Conservation Corps of Minnesota. The Conservation Corps and crew engages with underserved high school youth of the community and projects throughout Ramsey County regional parks and trails. And on this slideshow here, we have some images of this conservation crew picking up garbage at Battle Creek Regional Park. We have several energy conservation initiatives ongoing, making advances in our energy conservation. We had solar arrays installed at the ponds at Battle Creek Golf Course and also at our main administrative building in Maplewood. Lake Owasso County Park is currently being redeveloped as our first net zero facility in the park systems, where the energy produced on site will be equal to the energy consumed on the site through the use of solar power. So we had a golf study this year. The golf study was conducted by an independent contractor, and the courses were found to be high quality and well managed. There are some key recommendations that we'll be following up on, including increasing our marketing efforts, aligning the facility operator contracts, and developing a pricing strategy consistent with the level of quality of the courses, while also making strategic infrastructure improvements. Also, our ice arena system highlights has shown we've had steady growth on ice time rental over the past few years, going from 13,800 hours in 2016 to 14,200, which is 400-hour increasement. The Ramsey County arenas continue to host regional hockey events and are now hosting previously mentioned cultural events, including Philippine Day and Hmong New Year celebrations. Additionally, free ice time for the community has expanded through weekly open skate events at Vadnais and Highland arenas. Further key highlights from 2018 include our volunteers, which continue to be a key asset with Parks and Recreation operations and program offerings. In 2018, we had over 11,180 hours of volunteer service performed. Tamarack Nature Center continues to be wildly popular with over 134,000 people served, including over 2,000 people through free programming. Lastly, our public beaches and water parks are continue to be popular recreation facilities with over 70,000 people visiting the staff facilities last year. As we look forward to 2019, we have several master planning projects in the works. We'll be taking on extensive community engagement, which will be key in developing these master plans for the parks and trails listed here. Projects already planned and some of which are under development include completing the Lake Owasso County Park redevelopment project, installing a nature playground at Battle Creek Regional Park, and building out additional indoor program spaces at Tamarack Nature Center to better meet the demand for nature-based education. For the commission highlights, as in addition to reviewing plans and products brought forth by staff, we also had our Parks Commission tour. We had a bus tour of Park System where we focused on visiting sites like Battle Creek where new development projects will be upcoming, learning from other commissions by holding a joint meeting with the City of White Bear Lakes Park Commission, and we also volunteered at events such as the Ramsey County Fair to outreach with Ramsey County residents. So the Parks Department had several key achievements this past year, including awards such as the Minnesota Recreation and Park Association Awards presented to Commission member Gail Peterson, who received the Board and Commission Award. And additionally, our recently retired Parks Department Director, John Onyagi, was recognized with the Clifton E. French Distinguished Service Award. The Minnesota Off-Road Cyclist Organization also gave Parks and Recreation the Manager of the Year Award for managing our bike trail system at Battle Creek Regional Park. Additionally, the National Audubon Society awarded Keller Golf Course the 10-year certification in the Audubon Sanctuary Program, recognizing this critical habitat that had been developed at the golf course. We are very proud of the park's role in sustaining the health and vitality of our communities and what the system has to offer for the county. We strive to make improvements to ensure the park system potential is realized equitably for all Ramsey County residents. Thank you. Are there questions or anything you'd like to see in 2019?
Commissioner Huffman.
I'll just make a comment, and it's interesting, Mark, and appreciate the presentation, that through the tool or vehicle of parks, you're really doing a great job of accomplishing a lot of our goals at the county level. And it's fun to see that. You're not just a park system, you're actually a really integral part of reaching our goals. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thanks so much to the commission and to the whole department, Mark, for all the good work that you're doing. I especially want to call out one of the partnerships that you brought up, which is the Lake McCarran's, which is one of our regional parks in one of our cities, and I know that you partnered with the city. And so I don't know if you want to comment or expand a little bit more on any of the other partnerships. I'm guessing that's going to continue with our cities that we have our parks in. So if you want to comment a little bit more about those ongoing and continuing partnerships, because I think they're really great. The community really loves that.
Sure. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Commissioner McGuire, yes, we had a successful partnership with the City of Roseville for that joint program. That was a get to know your park that Roseville does throughout their whole system, and one of the parks that's in Roseville is Lake McCarran. So we were able to do the best of both worlds, have them bring in a lot of their equipment and facilities that they, or equipment I should say, to offer programs, and then utilize a great facility that we have. And you know, I didn't do the total head count, but I was there the entire evening, and there were several hundred people in and out throughout the evening. So it's one of those, if you offer that sort of a program, I think the people will come. So definitely looking to expand that type of opportunity in the future. I'll pause. I just want to say, with Leah here, I just want to recognize her in front of this whole board and say thank you to you for your leadership of this commission, and all the volunteer hours that you put in to provide us leadership and lead that group. And Leah is very passionate. She's not afraid to speak her mind, let us know what we could be doing better. So that's a good thing, and I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I want to thank you, for chairing the Parks and Rec Commission, but then also carry the board's thanks back to the members of the Parks and Rec Commission. It's always been a very engaged commission, and really working with Parks and Rec in helping develop and address some of the issues that you called out, the equity issue, but then really trying to align what our community expects from our Parks and Rec program, and then working with Mark and his team there and helping deliver that for our community. And we appreciate your dedication to that. And Mark, pass along our thanks to all your staff and continue to look forward on the updates that will be coming and continuing to look forward as we move forward here and really taking a look at Ramsey County Parks and Recreation, what does it mean for the next 10, 20 years, and how that impacts our community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioner Ortega, I got you up this time.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move items number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
13, I'd like to pull that one.
14, 15,
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, now we have 2 seconds. Your pick.
Well, 3.
3, all right, let's get them all down. All right, roll call on the moved items on the administrative agenda.
Ortega,
aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Yes?
Huffman,
Aye.
Maz Castillo, McGuire,
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye, our next item is from the county manager, master agreement with selected vendors for community engagement services. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I wanted to pull this to give Ryan a little opportunity here to highlight this work. This is the kind of the first RBA that's actually come to us as we've really focused in on our work in equity and pairing that with community engagement. So, Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is a follow-up. I'm going to invite Lydia Gurma to come up and give you a brief update on our work through the master contract process. We started this conversation about wanting to make our departments and our connections to community much stronger. Lower barrier and stronger connections is the first of an ongoing piece of work. It doesn't end here, but it was an important moment to pause and reflect on the progress being made.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I'd like to first thank you for your support of the countywide strategic priority on authentic, meaningful, and effective community engagement. And as a county, we know that we can't achieve our mission, vision, and goals without engaging those that are directly impacted by our policies, our practices, programs, and services. And this community engagement RFP and the master agreements that result from it help us to build our capacity and dedicate greater resources to our organization-wide community engagement work. It also helps us advance our efforts to collaborate more intentionally with community partners and to invest back into community through expanded contracting opportunities as well. This is a continuous RFP, and that will remain open for 5 years, and that gives us the flexibility to continue promoting the opportunity to work with Ramsey County and to grow the list of vendors over time. And once the selected vendors are approved, county departments will be able to access and contract directly with them for a variety of community engagement services. Departments are not limited to only working off this list, nor are they obligated to contract with any particular vendor. But having this vetted list makes it easier to work with vendors when they want and need to by streamlining the contracting process moving forward. So I'll close by saying that the implementation of this RFP is a step forward for us as a county, and it helps us to continue as we work to advance our countywide strategic priority. And we're committed to continuing to grow and to learn in partnership with community in this work. And again, I want to say thank you for your support and leadership as well.
And Lydia, thank you. I know you put a lot into this to get us ready for this approval. So, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the most tangible way to put it for everybody on why the master contract is one of our big ways to break down barriers is we often get to projects and say, we need to do more engagement to get to the finish line on this. And if you have to go through a traditional procurement practice from that moment every single time, you lose months. And you have to have vendors that are ready to ramp up quickly. And when you have small community-based vendors who want to work with us but may not have been able to plan for this work, it's very hard to respond on a dime. And what you end up with is the same large vendors able to respond and us sometimes unsatisfied with where we ended up in terms of our outreach and how we did our work. By having master contracts in place on key areas like this, when departments need to quickly respond to or say we need to engage with the community, we've already gone through the work of ensuring the contracts are in place, the legal agreements are in place, and it becomes at that point in time a scope of services conversation. You can call people on this list, you can have conversations about who's adept and who's equipped, and move from there. And so there continue to be work around relationships, further growing this list that will continue to be a part of our work. There are other vendors not yet here that we would like to see on this master list in our community. But it's a huge first step, and kudos to Lydia and procurement and everybody else who's worked on it to date.
Great. Commissioner Carter?
Yeah, I just want to add kudos to this as well. I don't think that it is as obvious necessarily with simply the RBA coming before us today, the extent to which this advances all of the work, as you have said. But I know that we will see, as we proceed, the impact of our ability to be able to enter into partnership in this way, actively and on an ongoing basis with those in our community who really, truly want to work with us as we pursue our goal of enhancing the lives of all of us here in Ramsey County. I just want to read into this moment the racial equity impact statement. Again, this is a part of each of our board RBAs now, where we state the impact that we anticipate the request for board action will have on racial equity. And this one says Ramsey County cannot achieve racially equitable outcomes through its policies, programs, and services without inclusive and meaningful community engagement. These agreements and all future agreements under the RFP position the county to take an active approach to advancing racial and health equity by elevating the lived experiences, expertise, and voices of those directly impacted by persisting disparities. I could go on and finish it, but I think that that is pretty clear. And thank you for this opportunity to actually connect in this active way to all of you, our county manager, of course, in leadership, guiding toward our county board's objectives. Thank you so much for your support, and Lydia, especially you. Done great work.
Commissioner Huffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And echoing Commissioner Carter's comments, the one question I had is, I think I heard Lydia and Ron, you both mentioned that the list will continue to grow over the next 5 years. Talk about how that happens, and if a vendor or potential vendor is out there, how do they get involved?
So moving forward, there is no deadline for submitting solicitations. It's on a rolling basis. And we will continue to get the word out about this RFP. We're planning in the month of May to hold an information sharing session, which is formally known as a pre-solicitation conference, but it's to inform potential community vendors and the broader community about this RFP, what our criteria are, what makes a master contract different from an individual or regular typical contract, and how they can submit successful solicitations as well. So we will continue to get the word out, and the fact that there is no deadline to submit solicitations helps to mitigate some of the barriers that especially smaller and newer vendors experience going through contracting processes in the public sector.
Thank you.
Okay. One thing I'm going to suggest, listening to your comments there, Lydia, is, and I think they're right on, but there's no requirement to use this list, and I think it would be helpful, whether it's 6 months, 10 months, a year out, to have a report back to ensure that this work is really having that integrated effect within the county, to get an understanding how we're using these contracts, and maybe even, get an understanding of what looks different because we're actually using these contracts. And I just say that because I think we should start tracking that as we move forward. Right.
Mr. Chair, I think there are two ways that you should see the work. I want to commit first to yes to that. The other way is you should see it through RBAs that are coming through, request for board action, in terms of who was engaged with and how was the engagement happening. I mean, that section of the request for board action, or how was community involved, this is a foundational step that should hopefully start to enhance that area repeatedly. On the structural side of, I think the report is a great back-end piece. We're also thinking through how do we have regular conversations at the department level with Lydia and others about what are we learning? Where are we having trouble? Hey, who's a vendor who's really been working well in these spaces? It's some of that human connection that really ultimately breaks down the barriers. You need to have the infrastructure in place, but then you need to make connections that go past it, as well as how do we continue to think about ways to give the tools to our community, whether it be through these informational sessions or other pieces that come up to raise their capacity. So I think it's got to be all three at once.
Good. Thank you. Good. Any other comments? Lydia, thanks for your work. Roll call.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye, aye.
Huffman.
Aye.
Mas Castillo. McGuire.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye. Our next item is from the county manager, supporting families with young children. Commissioner McGuire.
So,
you move?
yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like
And
to.
do we have a second?
Second.
All right, perfect.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason that I
that I pulled this was just to recognize the good work that we're doing in this area. And sometimes we're asked to support as a board a resolution that's going forward nationally. And so that's the case here. This is work that we've been doing. We're supporting families with young children. This is work that we're doing in partnership with the National Association of Counties and the National Collaboration for Infants and Toddlers. And they've asked all of the states that are working with them or all the counties that are working with them to pass a resolution, and that's what this is. But I also thought it would be a good opportunity for us to recognize the person that we've hired. Nancy Lee as our fellow, a Pritzker Fellow, and so I'm asking Elizabeth Tolzman and Nancy Lee to just come up and give just a very brief update on how we're working on this really important issue that we've all committed to, that we've been doing with our youngest children. This is our Pritzker 0 to 3 initiative that you've heard us talk about, but thank you so much for coming, Elizabeth and Nancy.
Thanks, Mr.
Welcome.
Chair, Commissioners. I just wanted to not only introduce Nancy, but also provide a little bit more context on this very important work. It was so great to hear us talk about racial equity, community engagement, and now I want to bring back 2 more strategic priorities that relate to this work as well. And that's residents first, accessible, effective, and efficient service delivery, and our new strategic priority of advancing families, strengthening and advancing families with a holistic approach. So it's great just to hear 4 of our strategic priorities highlighted during today's board meeting. Nancy comes with us from the state of Minnesota. She started with us last fall. She has a strong background in community engagement. She came from adult and aging services, and so now we decided to give her the other spectrum of 0 to 3. But as Commissioner McGuire alluded to, this work is very important. We all know that 0 to 3 is the most critical time in terms of intellectual, social, and emotional well-being. And Ramsey County was only one of 13 counties to receive this technical assistance grant countywide, and we were only one of 4 counties to receive a Pritzker Fellow. So with that, Nancy will give us a brief overview.
Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. I'm Nancy Lee, the Early Childhood Pritzker Fellow that's embedded in the Health and Wellness Administrative Division. The Ramsey County Early Childhood Initiative is focused primarily on the internal transformation of our organizational structure as it relates to early childhood referrals in our system, and we'll be doing this over a 2-year period. To start, we are actively referring families in our financial assistance program to the public health home visiting when appropriate as a primary source of support. But also we'll increase the family's awareness of other early childhood resources like Early Head Start, Early Learning Scholarships, and child and teen checkups. Also during this time, we'll be engaging with families through surveys to understand their awareness of and interest in early childhood resources. As I speak with parents and caregivers in our 160 lobby at this time during surveys, I see the sparkle in their eye when we talk about their children. And despite their circumstance as an adult, they are eager for all that they can do for their child. And that would make them very happy if we could help support them in that effort. In closing, I want to say I'm impressed with the efforts by our departments in working cross-county-wide, in particular receiving a lot of support from the Workforce Solutions Department, the Financial Assistance Services, Social Services, and the Public Health Department. So thank you very much for your support of this resolution, and I'm happy to have had the opportunity to share a little bit with you today.
Good. Thank you, Nancy, and welcome to the team, even though you've been here for a while.
Thank
Commissioner
you,
McGuire.
Mr. Chair. Yes, just to highlight what you just said, that she has been working with us already. I just thought it was a good opportunity to talk a little bit about that, and I know we're going to have a workshop where we can get more of the details. When you're ready to present, we'll have a more in-depth workshop to talk about how the surveys are reflecting what our families are feeling, and just want to commend you and all of our departments and this board for making, the 0 to 3 and our families such a priority in our work. So thank you so much.
Good, thank you. All right, roll call.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
Mas Castillo.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye. Commissioner McGuire, legislative update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the legislature is on break this week, but last week they did finish up with most of their omnibus bills. There's a bit of a difference. The House has bills that are quite a bit larger than the Senate bills. The Senate's been putting in less revenue for the issues, and they've also been more into reforming things. For example, we're concerned in the Senate. Senator Abler completely repeals the Child Care Assistance Program and wants to put that together with other things. And so we're just watching those things, and we know they'll have to go into conversations with the House. And then also the Senate has allowed the 2% provider tax to repeal or to sunset. And so that's would be a drastic reduction in resources that we would be getting for our great work in the healthcare related field. And so we are watching a couple of those issues very intently and be working with our legislators to really get the House version of those bills to prevail. So there's a lot of work to be done. The bills are still being gone through. As I said, they've passed these large omnibus bills, and as I like to call them, ominous bills, because they're there's a lot of provisions in them. So as we look at those, and I give, again, thanks to Jennifer O'Rourke and Claudia Brewington and Nick Riley for getting through them, and all of our department staff that are working on seeing how these bills really affect us and how we're going to be making our next steps forward as far as being down at the legislature. I know that we're all still continuing to be down there, talking to the legislators. I know I was on Tuesday, I thanked the House Bonding Committee for including our provisions for our winter recreation area and our transportation items. And so we just have to now keep working away on that. So just thanks to all of you, and if any of you have anything else to add about all the work that you've been doing, but now it's going to be the negotiating time between the House and the Senate.
Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you. And yeah, there's a lot that's been going on in their Easter Passover break that they have right now. I think there's still work going on, as I think I mentioned last week. But at least they have a chance to kind of regroup and figure out what things are going to look like as they go forward. One issue that was brought up and that we met with one of the Rice Creek Watershed district managers about is legislation that drastically changes the way the ad valorem or the taxes are collected and how they are spent. And I know that Anoka County, I forget what the name of the statewide organization is.
Bowser.
Oh, is it? Well, no, but Bowser and then the Soil and Water Conservation District Board as well. So yes, there's a lot of entities that are opposing this, and so I believe that we were planning to I would like to have Ramsey County go on or send a letter in opposition to this legislation, even though I know it's probably not going forward. The fact of the matter is we need to make sure that we are joining arms on this because we need to take care of our environment, the soil and water, as a community, not as an individual county and I think everyone understands that, but we need to make sure that that's very clear, that that's how we need to take care of our environment. So I would like to have that as a motion. I'd like to move that we have a letter in opposition to that.
And I'd second that, and when appropriate, I'd add a little more discussion to it.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. And so, as Commissioner Reinhardt mentioned, so Washington County has supported this legislation, and the legislation proposal is that where the money is raised by county is where the money will be spent. And that, of course, watersheds don't work that way. Water goes where water goes. And so, as Commissioner mentioned, Anoka County has opposed it. Other organizations have opposed it. Cities impacted have actually opposed it. So certainly wise for us to oppose this. It really totally disrupts the way a watershed would work going forward.
Commissioner
Mr. Chair,
McGuire?
it's my understanding that we're actually preparing a resolution for next week for that, so.
We don't meet next week.
But, I mean,
okay.
otherwise we would have something written down or something for us to look at.
Well, as it state, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
As it states on our agenda, when it comes to legislative action may be taken, and because we're in a tight time frame, I think that it's important that we just send the letter. We don't really need a RBA to do
I
that.
think sending a letter is different than a resolution of support or opposition. So I think, the timeliness of the letter probably makes sense right now. And then I don't think we need to do the support resolution. We certainly still could do the support resolution next week if you got folks working on that.
I thought in case, if we don't need a resolution in order to do a letter, we can just agree that we're going to do a letter. Okay,
Yes.
well.
We
if
have a
people
motion
feel-
second, we'll take a vote on it.
If they feel that they have enough information, I ordinarily would like something in writing if I was going to vote on something, but, yeah.
I made a motion.
Yeah, yep,
Motion second.
yep.
And, Mr. Chair, this is not an uncommon thing for us to do during a legislative session without an RBA.
Yeah.
Because that's why we have it specifically stated here that action can be taken, because we, just trying to move things forward when we know where our position is.
So before we take the vote, what I'll propose is we'll have staff work on a letter based off some of the work they've already done in preparing for the resolution. We'll get it out to all the commissioners to get a look at before I sign it and send it off. Everybody can take a look at that letter before it gets sent and weigh in on the body and the context of the letter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
Roll
That's
call.
fine, Mr.
Yep, Commissioner McGuire?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Chair,
Commissioner McGuire.
Yeah, thank you. It's just that we, when we just want to make sure that we have notice that people know what they're voting on. I mean, I was in the meeting, so I know what I'm voting on, but I don't know that the other commissioners know what it is they're actually voting on, but that's okay. We can do that.
All right, roll call.
Ortega. Aye. Reinhardt.
Aye.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
Mas Castillo.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye. Any other updates on legislative items? I did want to point out one thing. I checked in with Jen last night when I looked through the whole list, and it was reports on the omnibus bill in the Senate. Our 383 repeal was there, but there was nothing in the House, and Jen actually confirmed that it's actually went through a House committee and it's not in the omnibus bill. It's actually moving forward separate. So both the House and the Senate have approved that 383. So hopefully we'll get resolution to that by the end of the session. All right, Commissioner Ortega. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're going to go to county connections from our county manager, Ryan O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've already done a number of strategic plan updates and other pieces today, so I'm not going to have a lot. I just want to do one call out. About a year and a half ago, we finished a report called the Accounting Capability Report for the county. Real exciting name, but what it talked about was looking at the capability across the organization of our current accounting capabilities. Where do we have gaps? And we saw a lot of different findings through that about promotional opportunities. How do you differentiate an entry-level accountant from an accountant 4 or a leader? And we saw that we had challenges in terms of certain job classes not existing, particularly as we moved into a service team model. And I would like to invite up our CFO and our 4 controllers, who I'm going to introduce here during County Connections today. We now have, after being approved by the board last year, a set of controllers for the organization, building upon a successful model of having one previous controller in health and wellness, a capability that we did not have within our organization before. And so I'm going to turn it over to Lee to add whatever comments he wants about the accounting capability report, all the ways I might have butchered it, and then we'll go through and introduce the controllers.
Welcome, Lee.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. Thank you, Ryan. I'll serve as a resident historian, recent historian on this accounting capability process that leads us up to today, where we see the 4 people behind us. As Ryan had mentioned, we have witnessed over the past couple of years a slate of retirements of accountants in the department. And these are folks that served in finance and served as department accountants for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And as we saw this brain drain in the organization, we were concerned about our ability to compete for new talent, and our ability to integrate them into the organization when we did hire new accountants and new financial professionals. So we hired ROIG to come in. They started at the end of 2017, produced a report in early 2018 that looked at the organization and talked about ways to bolster our accounting capability. And that was a report that came to the board in July of last year, and we thank you for approving the request to expand the controllers in the organization. Forbes did a report recently that said the two hottest degree programs that are in hottest demand right now nationwide, a toss-up between IT degrees and accountants. And we were concerned about our ability to compete and get that kind of talent aboard and as I said, how to integrate them. The report laid out a number of recommendations for us. How do we do a better job of recruiting for accounting and financial professional talent? How do we select our people? How do we onboard them? Once we have them, how do we train them? How do we provide career ladders and lattices for the people? How do we compensate them and how do we classify them? So a number of recommendations were provided. The crown jewel recommendation was we needed to build out the controllers in the organization. We had one controller in the health and wellness service team, but we needed to build out controller roles that reported to each of the other deputy county managers in the other service teams. These are people that will serve as a principal financial advisor to each of the 4 deputy county managers. They're the people that will help each service team with financial planning, day-to-day accounting, budgeting, year-end financial reporting. So that was the capability that we wanted to build out amongst the ranks. The board approved that RBA for the 4 controller slots last July, and we're really, really pleased that we were able to move ahead with that. Janelle was our very, well, I won't say the first controller ever in Ramsey County, but she's the first of these 4. Janelle was a controller before it was cool to be a controller. Now it's trendy. Everyone wants to be a controller. Everybody wants a controller. But Janelle has been with Ramsey County for 24 years. She started as a accountant 3 at the Ramsey County Care Center many years ago, transferred over to Community Human Services, worked her way up through the ranks of what was CHS, what's now Health and Wellness Admin, and is now serving in that controller role. Tracy has been with, I'll get out of the way, Tracy has had a number of financial management positions in both the private and the public sector. She came to us from Ecolab many years ago, came to us in the finance department as a principal financial management analyst, and is getting her MPA from Hamline University. Serge Kovalchuk came to us from King County, Washington. He's a CPA, worked there in King County. He was a financial manager for their County Department of Transportation, Public Health, Public Defense departments. And I think he has some story about trying to move his family across the high plains in the heart of the winter snowstorm season. But he survived, his family's okay, and he's the guy for us. And George is our final, George Hargrove is our final controller. George comes to us from the other county on the other side of the river, Hennepin County. We stole him away. He was an accounting manager at Hennepin County and also was a financial manager at the University of Minnesota. So these are our 4 controllers, and we look forward to them in the organization and service to the deputy county managers. A round of applause for our 4 controllers.
Mr. Chair, I'll end this part with my own welcome to the controllers. I think as the board, you're going to see these folks a lot through the budget process. It's about to ramp up. For many of the reasons cited, as we were going through this, I think our CFO did a great job of reminding the organization repeatedly, budgets are priorities of what we want to do. And to do that, you have to do more than just day-to-day accounting. You need to be strategic. You need to be aligning people. You need to be a leader. And you need to be technically savvy. And I think this is a big piece to that. I want to give a final shout out to Lee and the individual acts of excellence. This work doesn't happen without a CFO that takes leadership over it and takes on the tough work of saying, where do we have gaps in our capability? as well. You noticed he's up here introducing the team, but none of them actually report to him, which is also a piece to where sharing leadership across the organization is a big deal. And when you couple this on the other end with the Finance Fellows program, where we're specifically working to recruit entry-level accountants, we're creating a pipeline on both ends here that help us sustain for the next number of decades in front of us. So thanks to all of you.
Good work, Lee, and welcome to everybody.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right. Commissioner Ortega, outside board and committees. Commissioner Huffman, outside board and committees. Commissioner Reinhardt. Commissioner Mattis Castillo.
I just want to comment on two quick things. This last Friday in the North End community in my district that's often overlooked had the launch of an art pop-up with over 200 people attended on Rice Street in the Winnipeg building that had been previously vacant for a decade. And so really exciting work where the community coming together around art and fine art, by the way. And so really exciting. There's also new businesses popping up along Rice Street. So really is primed for our public works plan in the future of redeveloping the road design and making it accessible. So really looking at how we're working together with community and businesses. So a shout out to Chad Holliday and Chloe Rizzo who did the art show on Friday.
Good, thank you. Commissioner Carter.
Just a few things, actually. I was able to attend the Alliance opening, the Alliance Stadium opening, along with Commissioners Mattis Castillo and Commissioner McGuire this past Saturday. It was a really beautiful day and I think just very successful opening. There's much, I'm sure, already that you've read about it and just wanted to highlight that opening. Also to highlight that Principal Mary McBee, whom I'm sure many of you know, has been at Central High School for 26 years. She has been an educator for over 50 and in the St. Paul Public Schools for the better part of those years, about 48. And she has announced that she will actually be retiring this coming year. We were able to celebrate her at St. Paul College, and it was a lovely opportunity to recognize her leadership. Words were read into the Congressional Record honoring Principal McBee's career by Betty McCullum last week, so that's pretty cool too. We met as Children's Collaborative last week. We're able to review our Learn, Grow, Thrive Youth Master Plan and to summarize the status of the goals. Children are ready for kindergarten, reading by third grade, have health care coverage, are connected to one or more caring adult, are safe and free from child abuse and neglect, and graduate from high school. All of these connected to all of our goals for well-being, opportunity, prosperity, and accountability in Ramsey County. And we can get you a copy of the link to that report, which is online. It's not printed this year. And we also met in our JDAI stakeholders and Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee with exciting work happening, bolstered by Elizabeth and Zachary out of our planning department, focused on new structure and really work around collecting the data that we need in order to do the work of reform and some specific strategic initiatives identified taking place within the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. And we certainly will continue to be updated as a board on all of that work.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Carter touched on a number of things that I was also at with the Children's Collaborative, and we also had a JDAI stakeholder meeting with all of our partners. I'm sat in on that meeting, and that was great to get the community together. Just want to recognize that there was a wonderful gala, the Arts Us Gala that Commissioner Carter is on the chair of the board of, and it was an amazing event where they really promote arts activities and after-school activities for young people, and those students are amazingly talented. And it was our Mayor Melvin Carter gave the keynote on that. It was a great event on Saturday. And then Mounds View had their town hall meeting on last night, and it was just a great recap of what the city has going on, and that was, I want to give them a shout out on that. And just today, I'm a member of Rotary, and the Sri Lankan team of educators from their Rotary in Sri Lanka are coming to visit the courthouse today, so
Very
I'll be
cool.
hosting them. So
Good.
thanks.
Thank you. All right. After we adjourn, we'll, Commissioner McGuire, part 2 of our Ramsey County Workforce Statistics Report. You want to start that in like 10 minutes? Commissioner McGuire?
Good. Yes.
Workshop,
Oh, sorry,
10
yeah.
minutes?
Yeah. I
Okay.
thought you were-
And then at 12, actually, it's been changed to 12:30, we have our County Court Joint Committee quarterly meeting. And with that, we're adjourned.